What is wrong with the Australian film industry? Australia led the world at the turn of the last century. In fact, the first ever feature film was Australian. Then it all fell apart. Then we had a huge renaissance in our film industry in the 1970s. We made great films like Picnic at Hanging Rock, The Devil's Playground and Breaker Morant. The success rolled on with The Man from Snowy River, Mad Max and Crocodile Dundee. Then it all seems to have fallen apart again. I've got a hobby. Maybe it's a fetish. I collect articles from the media that follow the topic of what's wrong with the Australian film industry. They roll around twice a year. First at the start of the year, they will lament what's wrong. Then they'll predict which upcoming films will be the start of a new renaissance and which director will be our saviour. Last year the role was given to Rowan Woods with his film Little Fish. This year all eyes are on Ray Lawrence with his new film Jindabyne. The second part is at the end of the year they'll look back and say why weren't the films successful and who should we blame? So why aren't Australian films being successful? Well, for one, it's about comparisons. There's no point in comparing a small Aussie film with a small budget against a big American film with a huge budget. We should really be making comparisons to films that have similar budgets in the $1 million to $2 million range. And most of the time we're not doing that. It's important to remember that most Australian films are in part funded by Australian taxpayer dollars. We do this so an Australian voice stays in our culture and on our screens. We seem to be obsessed with a few things. We're obsessed about making quirky comedies. The success of Muriel's Wedding, Priscilla Queen of the Desert and The Castle are hard to shake. We used to be obsessed with films about being Australian. It used to be a lot of horses, deserts and men in hats. But our national identity is changing. Most Australians don't ride horses and wear cowboy hats. In fact, most of us never did. Most of us live in the suburbs and are trying to pay off a mortgage and look after our pets. This rarely makes an interesting film. There are other things going on in Australia. We have an extremely conservative government, and social issues are often overshadowed by talk of the economy. Homelessness, mental health, and drug issues are big items that need to be discussed, but these can make pretty depressing movies though. But maybe what really needs to change is our idea of an Aussie film. Does an Aussie film need to be about Australia? Maybe all we need to do is bring to the table an Australian viewpoint, an Australian way of telling a tale. So maybe the real questions that need answering are deeper and more philosophical. A. What is an Australian take on telling a story? And B. What is it to be an Australian in 2006? God, I hope the answers aren't A. Quirky comedy and B. A conservative reactionary. But let me know what you think.